knowing that what the mentorship cost was literally half of what I had in my bank, that I had just enough to get the education and to learn, I could make all that money back in one deal. And that's just like what I kept telling myself, like, just get the proof of concept. Like, because if it works, if it just works, what is the upside? And the upside outweighed it. Just if I did one deal, now I have that proof of concept to just go essentially full speed ahead,
Welcome to the Top Tier Podcast, where we take you to new heights in the world of real estate, capital raising, and business entrepreneurship. Meet your hosts, Daniela and Landon, industry experts passionate about success. Join them on the Top Tier Podcast as they share real-world experiences, practical solutions, and strategies to overcome business and real estate challenges. From expert interviews to actionable advice, they aim to inspire and empower you. Subscribe now to never miss an episode.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Top Tier Podcast. Today we have Spencer Bishop with us, and I really think that Spencer has a really interesting story. He's on the East Coast, and I want to share with you guys how he's doing what he's been doing. I learned about Spencer within our mutual mentorship, and I think the deal that I learned that, you kind of came to my attention on was when you flipped a car wash. So yeah. Spencer, thank you so much for being with us today. Take it away.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've been real estate investing just in general for the last 6 years. It has not been a crazy amount of time. It's not like I've been doing this for 20 plus years or whatever, or grew up into real estate and just in general. This was all taught stuff to me that I had zero prior real estate experience, which is great because anybody can do it essentially. If you have a little bit of drive, a little bit of work ethic, right? And kind of put things to action. So for me, like, I was a truck driver. I was literally going from Florida to Seattle to Cape Cod, New York City, and just going all over the place, working crazy hours in a job I did not like. And I knew I had, obviously more potential for myself and I wanted more. And I could not figure out what the thing was, but I knew that I didn't have to go to college to get it. So as I see all my friends going to college and, becoming pilots and going in the military, all this cool, fun stuff, I'm like, I'm looking for the ticket that is just fueled towards like the lifestyle I want. I don't want to be tied to a job. I want to dictate my own life and things like that, and be able to support my family in any possible way. Like, it doesn't matter what happens, and I'll be able to do that. So that was kind of like my push in a direction to figure out what I ultimately wanted. And everything that I was really researching came back to real estate. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have the knowledge or the experience. Like, how the heck do I get into real estate? And funny enough, like, when I was a kid, I actually have, like, I remember a couple times from different parents that I was actually told that I should get in real estate when I was like maybe like 14, 15 years old, but I never even knew anything about it. Never wanted to do anything with business like through high school. I just know I wanted to be rich. I wanted a better life. I wanted my family to experience that as well. So ended up with all that research. I got stuck in one of Cody Sperber's ClickFunnels back in 2017, and which just led me just straight to wholesaling. And I didn't know anything about real estate. So I knew you had to have money, you had to have knowledge and all this different stuff. But he was selling you don't need experience, you don't need cash, and you can do it essentially, with little to no money, like just low barrier to entry into wholesaling real estate, which was really good for me because I was super green, but didn't have any other experience or knowledge about real estate. So I could learn one thing and stick to one thing versus trying to go all over the place and learn different strategies and not know my goals and all of that. It was just how to wholesale, and that was it. So I did his one-on-one mentorship back in 2017, and I ended up doing my first deal in 3 months and tripled my investment for the mentorship. And then it was just off to the races.
That's so cool.
Repeat his process over and over again. And how many times can I essentially do it? So we blew it up. I mean, and I say my wife, like, trying to help me behind my back and things like that. Like, I still have photos of us like writing Bandit Signs in 2017 on the table, like in the middle of the night.
It's amazing.
And that's how we were reaching out to sellers. That's how I got my first deal, was a Bandit sign. So I'm in between Tampa and Orlando in a kind of a rural market, but it's a hot market because of those two big cities, right? And that's kind of where Bandit signs work. They don't work in these big cities. They work in the smaller ones and the outskirts and things like that. So I got a call. I got a call from one of my signs, and it was literally not even a mile up the street from my house. Guy just was stopping into town. His father passed away, and he was coming to clean out his house, and he saw my sign at the stoplight at the intersection. So just went through that whole process, didn't know what I was doing at all, and literally negotiated and literally just followed Cody Sperber's process to a T. Like, say this, say that, following a script, right? And just trusting that process, like wholeheartedly. But knowing, I did know that I was all in, because I also didn't tell you that I literally just cut my job out and quit cold turkey when I went into that mentorship. So I had I think I had 15 grand to my name. Like, that's it. And I had rent, I had vehicles, I have insurance, all the stuff, right? So I knew I had like 3, 4, 5 months, like tops, or I was broke. So moving forward, I got this deal, went through that process, ended up locking it up. It was a great deal. Ended up making $17,000 cash as an assignment fee. Went through all the issues too. There was a memorandum against the property, had to negotiate with a different buyer out of state, the whole thing. Went through that, got my first deal, and then just repeated that process on doing more Bandit signs. So, I was just handwriting Bandit signs, placing them out, 100 to 200 of them a weekend. And I would just wait for the calls. And I would just wait. And I was practicing talking with sellers on Zillow leads, just free stuff. I would just call them and just ask them questions, even though I had no intentions of actually buying their property. But it got like kind of the jitters out, right? Got a little bit of experience and saying, hey, this is the questions to ask. This is what the information I need to know moving forward. This is what the buyers, all the different stuff. Ended up we did, I think, roughly over $100 and some thousand the first year. And then I kind of just got to a point where I grew that to, multiple 6 figures in the first 2 years of just wholesaling. And then I'm like, well, what's the next step? Like, I did wholesale. Like, I don't know any better. What's the next thing? And that was fixing and flipping. But I didn't have the money. It was using my wholesale fees. I didn't have the experience as a borrower or a track record to show that I've fixed and flipped all these properties, right, to the hard money lender.
Sure.
So the hard money lender, I, explained to them my story, talked about what I'm doing. And I was actually wholesaling deals to one of my lenders. So we had kind of a relationship on the wholesale side.
Okay.
That lender allowed me to use my wholesale portfolio of all the exits and deals that I've done as my track record to get my first loan.
So like walk it back just a little bit here, because I always come back to this with folks that I feel like found success fairly quickly. And I do believe that 2 years, it's pretty quick to go from doing what you were previously doing, starting fresh in a brand new industry, no relationships, no experience, to doing multiple 6 figures in probably the first business you've ever built and owned yourself.
The first business, yes.
Pretty freaking quick. And I say this because for some folks, they're in a mentorship for 2 years before they even are willing to take action, right? So for you, the people, what I typically see is the people that have nothing to lose, they go all in a way that folks with W-2s and families and other things, that they can't take that level of risk. It's like, how the hell did you do that? Oh, I know you had the 15 grand. You're spending money on the Bandit signs, right? But you're not doing any other marketing. Like, you're not paying. When we are taught, right, to build a wholesaling business, like, okay, PPC and CRMs and automations and before you know it, you haven't made shit and you're paying $7 grand out of freaking month, So talk to me about, you had that $15,000 runway. Really? Did you only invest in Bandit signs?
Yeah. So at first it was only Bandit signs, but to kind of back up just a little bit, to kind of, I've had a lot of manual labor jobs growing up. I actually grew up in Michigan, in a farm town, a very small place. Like, I was cleaning out horse stalls and mowing fields and things like that at 10, 12, 13 years old. So that's where I got like the work ethic and the drive to be able to put it in action right there. But then also I was broke. I had nothing to lose, but everything to gain in knowing where I wanted to be. So it's like, you have this guy that has the work ethic, but nothing. So what does he have to lose? But also he wants the life that everybody wants and dreams of. And all I have is Cody Sperber's processes. So I literally had to follow it to a T. And we knew that we had to pick one strategy. We had to pick one marketing channel. But if you weren't marketing, you weren't in business, essentially. And everything that we had was free. I didn't have a CRM. I was writing leads in on an intake form that Cody gave to us as an intake lead form to write all the seller's information down, that I had to copy and paste 100 million times in my office. So I had this like folder full of intake leads. So then I had to start putting them in a folder where it's like cold, warm, and hot. And every single day, because the phones weren't ringing from Bandit Signs every 2 seconds. Like, I had to wait for the right lead for that. I had to call. So what did we do? I was pulling free lists or lists anywhere I could get from, PropStream. Like, that was the only thing I had was PropStream. So I was able to either skip trace a wide list, meaning just thousands of records, not going niche, just going super wide, and then just taking a shot in the dark and hand dialing every single one that I could. So I got to the point where I had some people that were interested, that maybe they went into the warm, but people that are just like, hey, call me 6 months. They were in the cold. So every single day I went through whatever I thought was hot first. Then I went to the warms. Then I went to the colds. And every day you change. Like, one might go from cold to warm, or warm to hot, or hot to cold. So I just literally just kept doing that until now another lead and deal came in through a cold call, right? So now I was placing signs. That was where I was putting the money, but I was putting my time and energy to the free stuff, to the cheap free stuff that I could just bang the phones and spend, I know, at least enough time where I would hit those national average metrics for the daily, what I should be calling, right? How many people I should be calling and talking to on a daily basis. And then
what are those numbers?
Oh, like one in, I think it was like 50 to 70 people, like touches you actually had to talk to in a day. Conversations. And I wasn't doing it every day. Like, it was really tough and new to me. So it was really hard, but I was learning so much on just like the responses that were coming from sellers. And then after having hundreds and hundreds of conversations, they're the same conversations. There's only like 11 different options that the seller's actually going through. And once I closed my first deal, that was one solution I had for that problem that I could then reuse on the next deal. Well, I did that with this deal. Now I can move it to this deal. So, but I was only wholesaling. So I got the next deal, started coming for cold calling. And the Bandit Signs wasn't every month. It was like every other 2 and 3 months. But when a Bandit Sign deal closed, they were huge. Like, they were like probate deals. I've had some of my biggest deals on mobile homes assignments, which were like single wides that we've done like a $70,000 deal, $50,000 deal. So off of Bandit Signs, those were Bandit Sign deals. So when I got a $50,000, $70,000 deal, I was able to take that money and put it right back into more Bandit Signs. And I was writing them enough until where I got a deal a little bit more consistently, maybe once every 3 months or once every 2 months. I was able to turn from handwriting my Bandit Signs to the printed Bandit Signs, which was the game changer for me when I'm writing out hundreds and hundreds of signs. And it was super specific too. All of this is super specific down to the process, meaning Cody showed me what signs I needed. The 24 by 18 yellow signs with the H, right? What to say on them. taking the number and putting it on the Bandit sign, but using a tracking system so that you can track how many calls are coming into that one number.
Mhm.
And then you can use how many calls to one deal, start tracking KPIs, but then just getting the consistency of deal flow, right? Because I didn't have any deals really coming in, but they weren't every single month. So then they started coming in with cold calling and texting when it was super hot back in 2018, 2019, 2020. We were mass texting thousands and thousands of people and getting deals with we could almost get a deal as a lead every single day. Like we were having multiple leads becoming deals almost every day or every other day through texting and cold calling. And then that Bandit sign one would just come in and hit and it would be big.
Wow.
So you wouldn't get a consistency with Bandit signs, but when they did come in, they were good deals. So we just kept getting that consistency to the point where I could start stacking my cash to then use that cash into actually purchasing deals myself.
Did you do that before you started doing the fix and flip thing?
As far as what?
Acquiring and holding properties.
So I did 2 flips before I bought and held my first property, and that was in 2020.
And what does your portfolio look like now?
We have roughly 37 doors. And then literally in 2 weeks, we're probably going to have about 54. We're closing on a mobile home park up in South Carolina, another 6 unit. We're doing a lot of like smaller stuff, mom and pop, which is super like easy to acquire. Like we have like a really good pocket niche we're in right now, where it's that like $1 to $2.5 million mom and pops, easy seller finance, sub 2 deals, easy to get creative, but also manageable that we can, self-manage and also be liquid, like actually afford and not get burnt because we got into such a big deal. So we're just gobbling up these 6 units, 2 units, 10 units or whatever until we get so heavy that we're able to leverage that portfolio and get into the big stuff where 200 units, 300 units.
Yep.
But that's still far away, right? We're still acquiring. And I still wholesale deals every single day here today. So wholesale is still my number one, and it always has been. I love wholesale. Like that is the most. It's fun. It's fun negotiating. It's fun because you can literally make whatever you can negotiate. So to back up a little bit, when I was doing all of like the Bandit signs and cold calling and texting on these cheap initial marketing strategies, I was listening to Chris Voss, right? How to never split a difference, learning how to psychologically get in someone's mind, but give them what they need, have them feel heard, and both win. And it was all leverage and understanding leverage over your counterparts. And I started inserting that into my conversations, and it even like exploded even more. So yes, we did I can't remember. It might've been like 16 or 20 deals my first year. But how do you start making more money, right? Like, how do you go to the next step? It's by taking those same deals and making bigger spreads. So I had a lot of deals that were in there that were like $5,000, $3,000. I was taking anything I could get to do a deal because I was broke and I still haven't created this little machine. So putting all that together, I was able to take it to the next level on going back to my sellers and renegotiating my contracts. Hey, listen, the inspection came back, actually using real facts though, real inspection reports, not just throwing stuff against the wall and low cutting people for no reason. It was real facts, but going back and saying, hey, listen, we can't do this, but we can do another 10 grand lower. And people were saying, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it. So I was adding in another 5, 10 grand every single deal. So now my deal size went up. It went above the national average of 15 grand. We were doing 20 grand deals, 30 grand deals, and just taking it to the next level. But I always knew that the next step was fix and flip. And I have never experienced that. So I had the itch, I had the bug, and I didn't know any better. So I just tried to dive straight. As soon as I got a really good deal in my backyard, I was like, let's start fixing and flipping. So that's kind of just how I started into that next phase.
What's really cool is we've been 20 minutes into this podcast, and it's cool to hear how you've taken a lot of your childhood, your high school experiences, your work experience. And I have so much to unpack in regards to the trucking and whatnot, how long you did that, and like what led you to Cody Sperber and that whole world, and so much there. But what's beautiful and like hearing you say is, wholesale is and was the foundation of where everything sort of started in the real estate world for you in terms of your skills and competencies and confidence too, truthfully. I mean, you stack those things that's now bled into the beautiful world that you're in, that you just explained. Like you're buying $1 million plus properties, and you're doing these really cool things that before you're like, dude, I'll take a $2,000 assignment. I'll take a $5,000 assignment.
Yeah.
And now it's like, what's really cool is you're moving away from, and I don't even know if you still do Bandit Signs, likely not, but you do Bandit Signs, and then it's cold calling. It's that. And now you're doing fix and flipping, and now you're buying and holding, and you own, 30 to 50 plus rental properties and all these things. And what's cool is it's organic. You came from a regular background, a regular dude like me, of just starting and figuring out what that vehicle real estate is, and putting your nose to the grindstone and just going and figuring it out. And for me, wholesale sort of kind of my entryway into it very similarly. We actually kind of reversed. We owned, I think, three or four Airbnb properties, single family homes that we purchased, thinking buying rental properties was the way to financial freedom. And and then now I became a glorified self-manager of all my Airbnbs and all the things. And I'm like, hey, my life hasn't changed yet. So we've shifted that focus a little bit. And so it's cool to hear that. So I guess when you were driving truck, was that the time frame where you listening to audiobooks and podcasts and all the things that kind of led you to that world? And maybe you saw an ad, or like organically, how did it lead to you making that committed decision? Because there's a lot of people who maybe watch this episode here who are on the fence of joining that mentorship or joining another mentorship or all these little things. And you're a success story, right? And so is Daniela, so am myself, so is my wife, like all the little things of committing to that tribe. The vibe is your tribe and all those things. And so I guess, what was that, real quick, if you can kind of dive into that transition period where your headspace was at, and how and what it took for you to commit?
Man, I was willing to give it all. Like I just knew that my back was against the wall. I wanted out. For me, when I was driving a truck for my age, I think I was making really good money. Like, I think I was making like 80 to 90,000, barely 20 years old. I had a brand new truck that was paid by the company. I had my cell phone paid for, basically my rent paid for, because I was never really home. I was home like, I think, one weekend a month. And I think I knew I wanted something that everybody else didn't have. And everybody else have, like, all my friends had like landscaping businesses where they had all this overhead and equipment and trucks. And that was another thing. I saw all the numbers. My boss was losing himself because of insurance with all these vehicles and like just the overhead for business in general. And I didn't want any of that. So how do you get into a business that has no overhead, but that doesn't need any money, but makes the most amount of money? And I think just me searching certain keywords, I think I got trapped in one of his funnels on Google. I think it's literally how it happened. And Cody Sperber is, I would still say, like, probably the biggest in wholesaling as far as education, even though he sold Clever Investor this past year. He's done over $80 million of wholesaling and education and fixing and flipping. It's insane. So I got getting stuck in one of his funnels, I think, was like, all right, now we see this little light at the end of the tunnel. Like, there's actually someone that teaches this little sector, this little sliver of experience, business, and the life that I want. And once we found out it was Cody Sperber, what he was selling, and the mentorship, and knowing that what the mentorship cost was literally half of what I had in my bank, that I had just enough to get the education and to learn, I could make all that money back in one deal. And that's just like what I kept telling myself, like, just get the proof of concept. Like, because if it works, if it just works, what is the upside? And the upside outweighed it. Just if I did one deal, now I have that proof of concept to just go essentially full speed ahead, you know?
Yeah, I think there's so much to that. I think there's so much to, a lot of people get caught up in, the mindset, I guess, dichotomy of what if it goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I buy into this $10,000 mentorship and I don't make any money? I just lost $10,000. And, a big mindset shift for me is I've personally developed through those, because definitely, dude, I remember the precise moment I stood in the bathroom, telling my wife I'm going to join the sub 2 mentorship. It was like 10 grand or 9 grand or whatever it was. And, at that time, that was a pretty severe investment into myself and belief and trust and all those little things. And I remember telling myself, well, what if it works out? And I can sit here right now and go, it worked out 100x better than I even thought and expected. I went into it like, hey, I just want to earn back my fee to get in. So at least I can tell my wife we broke even.
At least that, that, right? Like just enough. Yeah, right.
Isn't that crazy, Daniela? Like, that's just wild to think about,
It's insane. And I think a huge part for me too is I grew up, my family's owned and operated small businesses, like a lot of what you were just talking about, Spencer, and a reason that my dad to this day works by himself in a 16,000 square foot warehouse. So he makes all the profit. So he doesn't have to pay anybody. But that also means that now that we've all been through our own business ownership experiences, it means that he can't scale. And you don't have people, you can't scale. Right. Yes, what he has been able to master is increasing the profit margin with his clients every year. Right. So it's like lower amount of business, smaller amount of projects, high profit margin. This works for him. It works for him beautifully. But I mentioned him and I always bring him in because he's my best friend. He's always the voice in the back of my head. And when I talked to him about this pace shit, he was like,
scam,
have I taught you nothing?
Whatever, yeah.
Have I taught you nothing? Like, what are you thinking? And I kid you not, right? The first year of that mentorship, I'm sitting there just trying to understand everything and sort of like break apart the chains around my mind and my mindset, right?
Yes.
To understand how cool, this is what works for Pace. How does this work for me? What is this? How is it going to affect my life? Because I don't want 1,000 residential doors. So what does this look like for Daniela, who lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, who has to survive here, and prosper here with 3 kids, 5 and under? Like, how do I make this work? And now he calls me on so many different things, everything real estate related. And he's just like, so how would you do this one? And what do you think about the structure on that? And it's just now the sub 2 thing
is his mind going. Yeah.
It's insane. And it's so insane. It's crazy how, he told me 2 years ago I was going to build this company and find these partners. I have business partners I've never met. I've never freaking met these people.
I know.
I've never been to a Pace event. I'm here in my corner of the world making money. I'm never at Landon, right? Like, I mean, it's insane, but, I could have never envisioned this for myself. Not that I'm doing, I am not doing what Spencer's doing, y'all. I'm not doing $100,000 months, but I'm working towards it. So
what's really cool, Daniela, is like you've had that. Like, I would presume that that's a validating moment for you in terms of your dad asking you questions and you breaking through and almost independently creating your own vessel because you lived sort of in his shadows of his beliefs and certain things. And I very much did with my father. And very similar story. I don't know if I shared this with you. My dad, saw the Airbnb things that I was doing, and we have amazing Airbnbs that do over $100,000 a year each and really cool, blah, 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 whatever. But then when I got into sub 2, like that was the thing. My dad's like, where are you? All the little things. And a year goes by and I tell him about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And he's asking all the very vanilla questions and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I start getting text messages of Sprinter vans.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, okay. And he's not like paycheck to paycheck for the most part. And, no real true real estate investments or anything, still works to this day. And now we're going to look, we literally met a guy on Craigslist, went to look at his Sprinter van to see if we could take over his car payment. So my dad could rent it out on Airbnb. And it's just like, that is just validating for me in terms of what I'm doing, in terms of those things. So for Spencer, I guess for you, through the past 6 years, You start wholesaling. It's just you and your wife. You're bootstrapping it. You're figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
Take me through maybe a quick synopsis of what does that scale look like in terms of humans, of people, like how you had to delegate through that process to where you stand right now in terms of, because as you scale, you need to have other people. Like for me, I have a team of 6 different people on my team, varying roles throughout the whole organization and whatnot. And so I guess for you, what does that look like? What did it start out looking like and what has it blown into?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did it wrong too. I think I did it completely backwards of what I probably should have done. And, and I should have listened to that next step essentially, or a next mentor teaching basically on scaling your teams. Like, cause I've actually like building a team and a real machine, like a real business. Right. But looking back, like I say my wife was helping me too, but to be honest, she has a full-time job and still works the job. She's an engineer for Publix, the grocery store.
Yeah.
And she works under the VPs there, which is like only a couple of minutes down the road. So she can come back quickly and do whatever she needs to do. But like, it's always been me. It's always been me. I've bootstrapped the crap out of this thing. And it's I want to say this because like a lot of people think that well, I need to hire VAs and somebody else has to do the job. I did every job until I literally did not have the capacity to do the low money tasks, jobs that I needed to delegate at that point in time. But I was doing everything. And like I said before, I didn't have a CRM. I was doing it in notebooks. So I didn't have the thing or the people to do it. I was doing everything and I bootstrapped it to the point where I had the funds to then go pay for the thing. So I think that's extremely important though, because a lot of people, they want to spend money right away and there's no money to spend. Like they have to but now a lot of people are in a different situation, right? Where they don't have all the time, but they might be in a W-2 where they, but they have the money to pay for somebody else to do all the work. That's a flip side of it. But for me, it was super low cost. I was able to keep my overhead super low, right? Because I wasn't really using a lot of systems. It was like one system. I was doing everything on a notepad. So I kept everything very low until I think I did myself for up until I think I had to get it up to $350,000 in annual sales and wholesales is when I did 3 VAs. I went ahead and got 3 more VAs. And all at that time, they were only teeing me up and setting appointments and doing cold call and texting for me. But I was still closing all the deals because for me, and a little backstory on that is I've had a lot of jobs that I've had to deal with people. So I can talk to anybody. I've been to 4 different high schools. So I've been in all different type of ethnicities. I had friends in all different ethnicities and all different stuff. I could go to anybody's house and have dinner with them and speak to them. Doesn't matter who they were or how they lived or anything. And that really helped me moving forward. So I was able to really excel in sales. And that's kind of where I thrive. So I was delegating all the stuff that I hated, which was a lot of the computer stuff, the admin stuff, all those basic stuff, where I got to the point where it was just VAs and I utilized them to just close more deals. And then all the issue happened with all of the carriers and the 2 TPA or whatever. I don't even know what it is anymore. But for the phone calls and texting, they started blocking a lot of that stuff. So it like my business kind of cut in half on that side. So as soon as it cut in half, I fired everybody. I went right back to the bootstrapping myself and went and did more revenue that way under the same circumstance. So I was having to do double the amount of the work for the same revenue as we were getting out of 2019 and getting into 2020 when that stuff really just took a dive on the regulations.
How fascinating. And that is so important. Like that part of the lesson is so important. I was going to ask you, so thank you for sharing that you waited until about that 350 mark, which I'm sure what you were doing was going, okay, on average, I'm spreading out all these profits throughout the year. I have this much per month. Like this is what I can budget. And then figuring out, being able to pivot and going back to doing all that work. I had this conversation with my husband recently where I was trying to get him to understand. I'm like, look, like I am working 3 times as hard for a third of the money.
Right.
You see me working all the time, but I'm not making what I was making 3 years ago. I'm making a
Right.
third of that. And he, like, this light bulb went off for him. And I'm like, yeah, that's what this day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
I
to
mean,
hear you go back, to hear you be willing to go back, even when you had low cost labor, is huge.
yeah. And Cody did a really good job. I'm telling you, Cody's a good dude, and we've done a lot of his even other mentorship stuff that he does now, more on a high level basis. And I think that just that following that process was just so, oh my, because I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? But he always taught that being an entrepreneur, being a real estate investor was learning to pivot at any moment in time. So I was always on my toes, like ready to move wherever the money was. I was following the money. And, you know, I think there's a lot of things that come out with doing everything yourself up until $250,000. Realistically, I think there's a lot of major benefits that come with it. And I think it goes into like rentals. It goes into fixing and flipping too. Like now looking back, I would have never done those first fix and flips. I would have just wholesaled my way for probably 5 more years, you know, or essentially 5 years total. I mean, before I went into fixing and flipping and starting buying rentals. So I didn't do that piece. I did my first, well, we can start kind of getting into the subject to creative stuff.
Sure.
But that got us to 2019 where the Cody Sperber's Clever Summit was. And Pace was really just first making that big push of creative finance. And I was up on stage because Cody was giving away plaques for anybody that hit certain milestones within the mentorship. And I was like, what's next? Like, I did it. You know, like I got like when I first started, it was like, all right, get to your first deal and then get to 6 figures and get to the next point, all these, you know, goals and things. But I didn't have any experience of what the next thing is. I've never owned a business. I've never built anything before. I've never gone down through a recession. Like I was in high school, you know what I mean? Like when 2008 happened, I was becoming a freshman. So there was a lot of these different things that I really got put in like the best possible position to have success if I followed these things, really. So in 2019, seeing him on stage, I said, now that's the next piece. And adding that tool onto my tool belt could double my business. So I'm sitting there like in his DMs, like, hey, listen, man, I don't know, like it's another $7,800. But I've already had the knowledge and the proof of concept that I did for Cody Sperber. I paid the mentorship fee. I did my first deal. I got the proof of concept, took it to the next level. And I knew that if I did the same exact thing and Cody was really lifting up Pace, you know what I mean? He was really promoting Pace. I knew that this could be essentially the next step. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do his mentorship, Pace's mentorship at first, and I'm going to just do it on my own. So literally like December going into January 2020, I bought my first sub 2 deal, which came from a Bandit sign that I was already doing. And the lady paid me $4,000 to buy her house on a 4% interest rate, but I messed all the paperwork up. I messed everything up. So I was like, I got to go with Pace. So I went back to Pace. I'm in his DM saying, hey, listen, I'm going to join now, whatever. Like I already messed this one up. I'm just going to join because I was already like, I already knew what creative was and everything, but I didn't know like the, you know, the meat and potatoes of everything. So joined his mentorship and like, I think it was early January of 2020. And then I ended up doing like 3 or 4 more deals of sub 2 that year. And then every year have just been compounding. So now that my entire portfolio is all creative, I've never qualified for a traditional mortgage besides hard money. So anybody can do that piece. But also, I think I still bought rentals too early because I was still doing $350,000 when I started in the beginning of that year. So when I started buying rentals, I was pivoting my mind towards focusing on rentals and focusing on fix and flips. What did that happen? What happened? My wholesale business took a little, you know, downturn, just a little bit, not a lot, but enough to notice. Right. So there was a year there that I was now buying more deals. We were still doing really good money in wholesale and we were fixing and flipping our first few properties and we did good. But now how do I continue to grow the wholesale side? So I literally had to get that experience and had to experience just fixing and flipping and buying it. Like I just couldn't get it out of my system. I had to. So, but I ended up having to go back to my wholesale business and then figure out all the marketing situations that are going on in the market at that time, which 2020, everything was changing. We knew that we had to be marketing, but our marketing was low cost and it was going super wide and it was costing, I mean, it wasn't costing a lot, but it was all outbound marketing, not inbound marketing. So I had a lot of VA, like the VAs was a cost for me when I was like, I could do this bootstrapping and things like that. So I literally flatlined in end of 2020 into going into 2021 through wholesale and fixing flip. I flatlined, did the same amount of money. And I had to make a change. And that's when my marketing changed. I started doing inbound stuff. I started doing direct mail. Then I started doing a little bit of PPC when PPC was like really making it a push.
That's expensive.
Oh my gosh.
That's expensive.
A lot of my wholesale money.
You took that risk. So you said, I still feel like I did rentals too early. Yes. Do you feel like you did rentals too early because you didn't have enough extra active income to keep that, like to keep a safety net always going? Or did you feel like you did them too early because it spread you too thin, like your focus?
It spread my focus too thin, but also I didn't have well, you could say, well, just why didn't you hire somebody to manage it? I didn't have now I would have taken a hit because now I have to pay an employee a yearly salary. Yep. So I would have taken a double hit essentially, which for that first year probably would have been okay. Like I would have taken a hit, but then it would have had bigger growth, but I still could bootstrap it. I still knew I had more in me to be able to close the new marketing, but also do more deals and still grow my business with what I had existing. So I was this is where I started getting, full on CRMs, customizing Podio, really building the infrastructure out, which was a little bit too late. I should have done that a little bit sooner, essentially. So I had a couple things backwards, but it helped me because I was able to keep my overhead super low cost until that time frame. Where now I'm going into bigger marketing channels was a lot more cost on a monthly basis. And really that first year, we didn't do a lot more in revenue when the marketing changed, but the deal size changed. The motivation changed. We started getting more creative deals because a lot of leads are retail or the people don't need to sell at a deep discount, right? They want, they only have a little bit of equity. So a lot of more creative deals started popping in. So I started taking down more deals, but also wholesaling those creative deals. So that's what added on to my revenue, where I was originally wholesaling all cash deals. And now we were able to wholesale creative deals and having different types of leads come in from these inbound marketing channels. So we really didn't start rapidly growing until 2022. Because I was in this limbo of employees, the team, and the marketing, which that was a big shift in that era. That's when everything changed. But you got to remember the sales process and the cost of the lead are kind of roughly the same. What I mean by that is for cheap, low cost marketing, like texting, cold calling, and all that, the sales process is so much longer and harder. You have like 10 touches before they actually sign with you, right? All these calls, all this follow-up, where in inbound marketing, I lock the deal up the same day. I can do it in literally 2-3 calls. It's done, right? So it might be a more expensive lead as an inbound channel, but my sales process is a lot cheaper. And it's the direct opposite for the cheap marketing channels. So for anybody starting, they always want to start with the cheap stuff, right? But always want to get to a point where they're calling you. You ain't calling nobody trying to convince somebody to sell. Kathy's calling me and saying she literally will give me her property because she doesn't have any other way out. It's just a totally different sales process, lead intake, the whole thing.
So for your wholesaling business, if you look at it, cash versus creative, I have a lot of clients that have started in creative wholesaling, and they really, really, really want to move to cash because it's just the drama of creative, right? It can be super
Yeah.
challenging. And so you started with the advantage of really being successful in cash. What does it look like now as far as how much cash versus how much creative? And what have you learned about servicing both kinds of opportunities, I guess?
That's just learning all of the different types of problems people have and
Mm,
then knowing the solutions for them.
okay.
So no matter who I talk to, if they're like, listen, I don't need to sell at a discount. I know what my house is worth. I want retail. Then we're having a totally different conversation. Like, hey,
Got it.
listen, you don't need a discount. I don't need to lowball you. But hey, listen, like there's only one strategy for you, and that's creative because you're going to get the most amount of money. So the sales process changed a lot too, dictating on who I was talking with, right? And I got super comfortable with that, knowing the solutions on whoever I was talking to. I had a solution for them. And just leaning in with just trying to help that person because no one else is doing it. No one else is going above and beyond trying to help a seller out. Even if there's no obligation, even if we don't do a deal here today, I'm still going to point you in the right direction and give you references, give you anybody point of contact that I can help you out to steer you in that right direction so you can still get this done. And me leaning into that just, helped me out even more with people's situations, and it got me a lot more deals.
Awesome. Okay. So interesting. Landon, as you guys are, you guys just brought on a dispo person and now I'm kind of like thinking about your team and I'm going, Spencer, what does your team look like now? I mean, are you guys still in the Florida market primarily, or have you guys gone nationwide? Like,
yep.
what does that look like?
Nationwide. I never I tried in 2021 and 2022 when we changed a lot of the marketing to PPC, we were going wide and we were going into like Charlotte, Atlanta, and all these other markets, but then we didn't have the infrastructure. I didn't have all the buyers. I didn't have all the agents to work with, the boots on the ground to immediately attack those deals. So that stunted me there. So now I'm doing super niche. I'm not doing wide. I'm doing like any lead that comes through my inbox. If it's a deal, like it's done, it's mine. Like not even a question because I'm in my market. I'm in my backyard.
Yeah.
So I've spent the money and the time really refining PPC and teaching it and having it really learn the algorithm and what I want and what I need, that I've been able to go super niche in only two markets meaning all of Florida, Central Florida mainly, and then Grand Rapids, Michigan, one county, and that's where I'm from. So I'm very familiar with that area. I have friends, family, contractors. I have flips going on up there right now. So I have the infrastructure built so that any deal comes in those areas, we can do a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But my team, one person other than myself. And what I did is I went through all the people of like hiring kids, teenagers, hustlers. The thing is, you need to fire the hustler and hire the CEO. So every single time that I wanted a new employee, I was hiring the wrong person for the seat. And that was just hurting me. They were leaving. They were like, well, I want more money, or they were seeing what you were making and wanting to start their own thing, which that's fine. I get it. But it took me a lot of trial and error to figure out, and a lot of mentorship and, the next levels of mentorship to learn that when you get to a certain point, you have to hire the right people for the right seat. And I went and hired a high level person, someone that needs security, someone that wants a check every week, someone that has insurance every week. You know what I mean? And now that person has so dialed in, they just tee me up. I still close to this day because I'm good at it. And that's literally my strengths. So any deal that is a deal that they team me up on that we need to close, I'm 95% closing that deal. You know what I mean? I'm going to close that deal. So I don't need all the fluff. You don't need this huge team. You don't need 20 VAs, right? You need the right people in the right seats doing the right job effectively. And I think a lot of people get burnt on just, trying to lean on VAs. Like, like they're supposed to know how you want your business, right? Or they don't do they don't train them on a daily basis. All these different things so that these entrepreneurs are just bouncing all over the place, hiring all different people, changing their marketing every 2 minutes, changing their strategies, and not ever sticking with something long enough to see it through, to know exactly what they need and want. And it just took me time to figure that out.
This is so critical for anybody watching this. I know I said at first it was quite remarkable that Spencer was able to accomplish what he was able to accomplish in a 2-year span, because it is, because he's never built a business before, because this was completely new to him. However, you cannot escape the burden of time, and you cannot escape the dilution that occurs when you focus on too many things. You inevitably will waste instrumental amount of time trying to figure out how to make money. You're going to sit there and go, I don't know why I'm not making money. Why am I not making money? Why am I not making money? Because you're not studying your craft. And I cannot tell it, like, this is the same issue with VAs across the board. That VA sucked. I fired her. She did not suck, bro. You were not prepared to hire her.
You sucked as a leader. Yeah, you sucked as a leader.
You're a terrible manager. You're not ready to delegate. You don't have systems and processes in place. You didn't take the time to do this because you're focused on too many things. And you're focused on too many things because you feel like the next best thing is going to make you the money. But really, you're not willing to get whooped for a couple years learning how to make money doing the one thing. It's just so painful and so hard for us to learn. And I fall victim to it for sure to this day, of going like, don't think about that. Don't think about that. And again, like, you are not going to survive off 20 rentals. Like, the doors ain't going to do it. You have to have active income. So the focus needs to be on building an active income business, and you become a killer so that you can support a myriad of investments. You don't need to be like the RV king. You don't need to be the single family king, the short-term rental king. Like, you just figure out how to make active income, and you invest your money with the people who know how to do those things, or you just take it like one slice at a time. Like, people are so eager.
Right.
They think, oh my God, I don't know about you guys, but like, this one thing on Instagram right now is freaking killing me. My journey to 10K a month. And I'm like, bro, look, it's not about 25 rentals equals 10K a month. It's not about like this business equals 10K. It's like, it's everything that you just explained. It's the pain of what you just explained, and having to handle that on your own, and the grit and consistency to keep showing up day after day, not knowing what to do, but just doing it and figuring it out. It's like this journey I'm like, this is the marketing shit that people just get lost on.
Yeah. No, for sure. It is like, I don't even look at my rental portfolio as anything. Like, I don't take any money from it. Like, for me, it's just like planting the seeds. Have you ever heard like Andy Frisella talk about that Chinese tree, that the tree that grows like after like 10 years? It's like 10 years, it's in the ground as a seed. But then it hits 10 years, it goes like 8 feet or something like that. Insane. And that's exactly what this is. But for me, yes, I think I bought rentals and I bought fix and flips too early. I think I bought it before I had enough money in the bank, except for reserves for every single property, the whole thing. But I wouldn't have done it differently, because now I have a lot of appreciation and depreciation to rip off of it. Meaning, I started buying in 2020. Properties have appreciated since 2020, just till now. So I kind of like look at it like that. Like, I don't want to be wholesaling and fixing and flipping for 10 years to then look back and saying, what's next? And I don't have nothing to show for it.
True.
So getting the right mentor, always hearing these different little nuggets. That was one of the nuggets, saying one of the worst things that you could do is having that regret of lifting your head up when you come up from fixing and flipping and chasing deals, that you have nothing in the bank to show for it as far as like an actual ownership portfolio. So, and that's one of the other big reasons why I wanted to start buying in 2020. But for me, it was just like, I wanted to buy 1 to 2 a year. But as we were wholesaling and fixing and flipping, we were just seeing really good deals. So we just started cherry picking the best ones and plucking the ones that we knew were just no brainers. And anything else, we wholesaled. Everything else we wholesaled. So I never like spread myself too thin or anything like that. But I also just did that just enough to get into them where I could reap the benefits of getting the depreciation off of my active income because I was making more in wholesaling and fixing flipping as I was growing. So I had to depreciate real estate, and then wanting the appreciation, knowing that here in Central Florida in 2021, they were appreciating like 21%.
Insane.
Like a year, which is incredible. It's unheard of. So I just knew that I had to buy the best deals that I could as quick as possible just to have a handful of them that were going to go up in value that I could either refinance or something and pull big chunks of money out later down the road to get me to the next step. Like I feel like real estate is this big parlay of the next deal into the next deal and just doing things that have more leverage and with less of your time and more benefits, right? And really, I think that got me to the next phase of really coming into 2023, like the beginning of 2023, that I didn't tell you guys this, but I was using all my own money. Yeah. So like I was using,
I've been there. Landon's been there. I mean, we all like, why wouldn't you, well, you sit there and you go, why would I pay money? Why would I pay interest on something that I have?
Yep.
Well, like I was okay with it, but as far as like, I never like was actively raising money because I also didn't have I've only had all of the wholesale experience, right? So I was still buying a couple properties of rentals and only fixing and flipping a handful, but I didn't have like all this crazy operator experience or anything like that to say, hey, listen, bet on me because I'm the jockey you want to give, $100,000 to or whatever. Like I wasn't that guy at that time. But at 2023, I was like, that's the next piece because now we were doing over $500,000 in annual revenue with fixing and flipping and wholesaling, everything combined, and now adding in rentals and everything. What was that next step? I mean, I had to scale, and you can only scale two ways, and that's either with marketing or people. And I had to do more marketing. I had to hire. So getting into 2023, I didn't use any of my money. I was able to retain a lot of my profits and use those for whatever was needed. If I needed anything, start banking reserves, start paying stuff off, right? Start paying taxes on time, start, spending more in marketing, like all of the little crap that we learn along the way, all the, trial and error through that. But private money just exploded my business because then I did my first deal with no money and I made profits. I was able to show the proof of concept on that to the next lender. And I went back to the same lenders and we would do the next deal. So we started building relationships and it just kept growing where now I could say, hey, listen, I bought this sub two deal at 2% at $100,000 of equity day one cash flowing. Like everybody wants to do a deal with you. So then I started partnering on, PMPs and doing 50-50 on my deals and just started rapidly growing and cherry picking even more deals out and buying from wholesalers and the whole thing. It just kept on growing, but I was able to grow it faster with the private money sector.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. You definitely need that. And that's a part of our scaling too, in terms of things. It's so cool to sit here 3,000 miles away and hear what you're doing in terms of how you're cherry picking the home runs in your business, much like, ours right here now. We're in escrow for, I think 14 or 15 homes right now, some cash, some creative, a lot of those wholesale, but we're cherry picking one that we're going to keep as a sober living home and just picking those out. And in doing that, I'm raising the money to pay for it. That's going to cover that whole thing. And, that's one of the things that on Monday of this week, Pace, Jamil, and Brent are on the wholesale hotline and they do it every Monday. They talk and
always listen to the wholesale hotline. Always listening.
So good.
That's
so
awesome.
Good. And
to this day, just learning
on Monday about how can I take my business and scale it. Genuinely, I'm just curious from a standpoint of systems or people was my curiosity of how do I take my business from 10 to 15 deals a month to 15 to 20 deals a month, just that next step, next evolution. And what's cool to hear is their answer reciprocated to your experience is that it's not necessarily from 10 to 15 to 15, 20. It's more so how can I take the 10 to 15 and squeeze more juice out of
bigger
those
deal size.
So it's pretty cool how that transfers over to what exactly you're saying. But then in turn too, one thing that Pace was mentioning, and I get the luxury of playing golf with him tomorrow to talk further about this, but
Awesome.
He talked about, every 12 homes, you need to be buying that home, and not just buying that home and keeping it as a rental, as a home run, as a hell yeah, let's keep it kind of thing. But also too, when you raise the money, over raise and pay yourself a finder deal fee as a part of it. So you're still getting your assignment out of the whole thing anyway.
Right.
That's
And
the next
that's
step.
the whole, exactly. That's the next step, because it came down to a point where I was like, listen, what are the goals? Like, we're trending north, right? We're doing more in revenue. We're building a portfolio. We're making more money, all of the fun stuff. But what is the goal? Like, really, what is the goal? And for me, I'm like, okay, well, I want to, have, time freedom and all of that. I want to have a portfolio, but everything that I was weighing out came back to ownership. So now going, like, I think it was like maybe it'd be like middle of 2023, everything started aligning with ownership. It started churning where I was like, let me just fix and flip 10 more deals this year. Let me wholesale 20 more deals this year. Like you said, like you just want to do more. It's not always more. It's alignment. So what I wanted, and I did exactly what you're talking about. So I was taking down cash deals. I was taking down more rentals, but every single deal I was now paying myself an assignment fee. So it didn't matter what deal I was doing. If I was buying it, fixing and flipping it,
You're making
wholesaling it,
money.
I was making money. So not one of my businesses, because obviously those are all different structures there, not one of them was being hurt for every single deal that I was doing.
Yep.
So that was another leap, right? And it's just multiple things where now it's like, okay, now what's another step? We wanted to start commercial. So that's how we ended up doing our first deal of commercial. And our first commercial deal was the car wash.
That's
So
perfect
like,
segue, because that's what we want to get into here. And
I had to
really
transition.
Yeah,
you did.
and you do. And like, this is for all y'all people with deep in residential land, 1031 those suckers into commercial. Like, the gains are crazy, but also business owner operator stuff, investment stuff, triple net leases. Your problems become different, but they also become different. Like, there's an advantage and disadvantage to everything. So you flip this car wash, but like, I mean, sky's the limit. Commercials, like, you want to buy a circus, you want to buy a car wash, want to buy a gas station, you want to buy a parking lot. Like, it's just
right. Exactly. And what aligned with me was just real estate, being a real estate investor. So I've never ran a business before prior to anything like that. So I was never looking at as a business. Like, I want to run a business, or I want to build this business, this next business, or, laundromats or car washes or storage, whatever it is. I knew I'm still a real estate investor. So when I saw this car wash, I saw the potential being of looking at the real estate first. So when I did my comparable sales and I was looking at, what other car washes have sold, what raw land was selling for, what was listed for sale. And they were asking, I think they were asking originally, they were asking $450,000, something like that, for the car wash. And there was a lot that recently sold, same size, vacant, no utilities, less than a mile up the street, that sold for, I think it was $750,000. So I'm like, you're telling me like a whole business on the same lot, on the same road frontage, because on like a major 4-lane highway road frontage, it had the same amount of road frontage type lot, same size lot, but it had all the utilities, everything. And it was half that price.
Was this on market or off market? It
was off market. So it was actually came out of Pace's free group on Facebook.
You just never know. You never know where they're going to come from.
And that's a whole other thing.
Spencer, really quick, is like, I love that you shared, you kind of gave the how you looked at this is purely real estate, because that's your background. And that's
what I know.
It's what this too is like, you never know the skills you're stacking in terms of what you're doing, how it's going to transfer and be a utilizing tool for the future in terms of what you're doing. So case in point, like in Daniela and I's world right now, what's really cool is we're synergistically came from two completely different paths. She's super bougie up in California, living her life, doing her things. I'm some redneck from Oregon, anyway, but no, so she comes from this commercial background space, right? And then I come in residential, but not just residential. I, at one point, pre-sub 2, wanted to be the short-term rental king because I figured it out. All of my properties do over $100,000 a year. Look at my beautiful mural and pool, all the cool things. My hospitality is automated, all the really cool customer service stuff. And, owned them for multiple years now, probably about 4 years about now. And now we're coming in, and her and I are collaborating and getting into, and like our endeavor is self-storage, which sort of blends a lot of both of those two worlds in a sort of pattern of how do we automate our self-storage, customer service and hospitality, commercial real estate, as well as a business. And all of these things come and collide. And what's beautiful is like, I had no idea my Airbnb experience and all the automations I created and all of that experience was going to transfer into right now we're looking at a $4 million asset and a $4 million business and all of those things. And then consequently too, like from wholesaling, like I'm really good at closing deals. And so my skill set, I can transfer from a $100,000 house now to $1 million asset, $4 million asset, and use the same skill sets, have the same conversations, the same objections, and just speak those things. And so for people out there listening is like, you may not have done your first deal yet. And maybe you may be in residential land looking to get your first wholesale deal, but don't underappreciate what that skill is going to provide for you in the future in terms of what you're doing. It's not like you're going to be a wholesaler the rest of your life. Like,
yeah. And I never looked at like, right in the beginning too, like I never like saw like Cody Sperber. I'm like, well, he's doing 80 million. I want to do 80 million. Like it was never the thing. It was like, I just want out of my job, man. Like I just want a first deal. Like I just need the proof of concept.
Yeah, you were right here.
I'm all in, but like I still don't know. You know what I mean? Like I haven't done a deal yet to get that proof of concept to do it again and again and again. And I think that's super important because a lot of people try to put themselves in other people's shoes that have been doing it for 10 years. Like you're not even in the same room or the same year. So you got to like know where you're starting and just know that you have to stay in your lane and focus on what you want and trim the fat. So like everything now that I do, doesn't matter if I'm doing car washes, flips, everything, it has to have alignment with my end goals or I'm not doing it. So I'm saying no to a lot more deals, right? Increasing deal sizes, increasing like the leverage that I have in my deals. So when going into 2023, we started doing like these high level masterminds that we were even with Payson. One of them, he was a instructor on Avengers. I don't know if you ever heard that one. We did Avengers, which was 30 grand annual fee to get into. We did Cody Sperber's best year ever, which was 100 grand to get into. But the thing is, those nuggets that we get from all these different people that were doing it at a high level, it wasn't the mentorship that gave me everything. It was the one nugget that they just were talking, on a bus or, in the bathroom or whatever it is that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I could do that today and make another 200 grand.
And you reach out to these people though, when you hit that wall and you go, bro, walk me back through this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Call you later. Bye. Go do the thing. Right.
It's so true. I mean, that's where like I got the opportunity to go with Pace. When was it, Daniela? In February of this year? I don't remember. I got to go to the $100 million mastermind at Dan Fleischman's ranch over in Temecula, where every single person there, but me, had a business that was doing $100 million a year or more. And I'm just little old Landon sitting in the same booth right next to Eddie Wilson, right next to Jen Gottlieb, right next to all these different like artists and these different things going, holy crap, imposter syndrome, full tilt of all these little things. And you're spot on. It's like, yeah, they had the presentations and all the glitz and the glam and all that kind of, we did some really cool offsite stuff and they had like the dirt bike trick deals, whatever. And it was great and fun and whatnot, but it was the lunch sitting next to Jen Gottlieb, hearing the little nuggets of things and what she does that I'm implementing immediately and doing to help build my brand, and then it's the conversations with Eddie Wilson about business acquisitions and exits that he's done over 100 exits of businesses and whatnot. And now even when I go to an event, Eddie recognizes me. We're talking a billionaire recognizes me. I'm just Landon from Oregon. So all of those little things, they matter. It's not just for the presentation so you can take notes of what someone's saying. It's those little connections at lunch. It's those little nuggets on the way to the next event or whatever it may be. It's so good.
It's leverage. It's getting your time back, making more money. Like those are now the things that I was focusing on. So even when I was buying this car wash, I knew the value that it was in the land rather than the business. And I never operated a car wash before, even though I was like, man, I'm getting such a good deal that I know this location that I'll do it if it makes sense. But the more that we were looking into it and like what the repairs were, the repairs were more money and more bigger deal than I've ever done. So it's like the risk was definitely there of if I were to put another 500 grand into this property to try to run it and operate it as a brand new business, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the risk when I'm already wholesaling and fixing and flipping and being a real estate investor and making way more money and not spending my time in a car wash? So that's like where my thought process was. And, and I had to have Pace come out to the car wash and really talk about the deal. And we did a bunch of videos and stuff. And he was like, he's like, what's your plan? I'm like, listen, I can take the profits from this and turn it into 5 other deals versus sitting. But I mean, let me back up. Like that property is $1 million property in the next couple of years. And in the next 10 years, it's probably a multi-million-dollar property, right? So yes, the benefits long-term would be great, but I'm in the fast game. That's like the old man's game right now where they can park their money. Me, I'm churning and burning is what we always say. So I'm parlaying still so I can become a multimillionaire so that I'm sitting on a bunch of cash so I can go to all the opportunities and do the things that I want to do. So the alignment, the quick rip, we bought, did nothing. We pressure washed it, cleaned it out, and made $250,000 in cash. So in 3 months, I was able to take that $250,000 and now put it into more fix and flips, buying more rentals. You know what I mean? I was able to go buy a lot more deals with just the profits on that one deal by knowing the leverage, knowing my market, and knowing that I could make a lot more in a very short period of time versus sitting and waiting years and years and years to get a big payday, because I can get a lot more paydays along the way.
Okay. So with this specific deal though, commercial assets are hard to move, especially something like a car wash, right? So Did you just throw it up on Cracksy? Like, what'd you do?
Yeah. So I did a flatfreelisting.com here in Florida. It's like $375, which to list it essentially, but you still have to offer a buyer's commission. So I'll put 3% on the other side, list it on the market. And to be honest, like at first it was a little slow, but me and my partner were like willing to we knew it was such a good deal that we were willing to wait. We didn't need to hurry up and cash out and dump it because we weren't getting a lot of calls. Right. So we were willing to hold, and we're like, we're going to keep holding. And we got everything under the sun. People would get mad at us. They're like, you're never going to get that price. Like, this needs to be at $400,000. Like, take it or leave it, the whole thing. And we told them to kick rocks, every single one. We know what we got. And we just held and we held and we held. I'm like, how can a vacant lot sell for $750 and the same size lot, same property frontage, not sell for double? Like, it just doesn't make sense. So we just kept waiting, and we had a lot of different people come through, a lot of different offers. And then I went to the local car washes, which we did prior to purchasing it, and all the local self-serve car washes around. And there's one company called TNT Car Washes that they owned all of them. And the lady's like, oh, we know it. We tried to offer on it last year. And she's like, how did you get to the owner? All this different stuff. And she's like, well, we want to do the inspections, the environmental tests, like the whole thing. And we're like, listen, take it or leave it. Right. Because we know that we weren't selling it at market value either. Like, it was just below, it's still below market value. So we're like, hey, you know what? Let's go under contract. If you agree to the price, we'll let you do all your tests, but your money is non-refundable, and we'll wait it out for you to do everything. But the price is the price. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. So we got them under contract. It took 60 days, I think, from start to finish from their contract. So we were already 30 days in of holding this property, which, I mean, you should be getting offers in some things pretty quickly, in determining if the deal is good and if the value is there. And they came back and they're like, it's approved. Like, we're good to close in the next 2 weeks if you want to. They didn't say anything, nothing, whatever. Got to the closing table. They paid cash. and deal was done. Like just like that. Like just
End
like
to
any
end,
other
how
deal.
long? How long end to end?
End to end was 90 days. It was just over 90 days. I think it was like 96 days or something like that from purchase to sold to money in our account.
Fast.
Which is the same amount of time that I'm flipping a house. So like to purchase, to remodel, to sold is 90 days in a small little house. But the leverage was way more, right? Like I'm not making 30 grand on a 90-day deal from a flip. Yep. I'm making 250. So focusing on deals that I know that are very good deals, that have deep discounts, that have high leverage, meaning a little bit of my time for big returns. I'm not dumping multiple six figures in it to get six figures back. I'm dumping nothing into it and getting six figures back, right? So just changing my mindset on the type of deals that I'm taking down, on where I can take these big steps. Like it's the same amount of time to do that deal as it is to do a $1,000 assignment. It's the same amount of work. It really is.
Yep.
As far as like contracting, talking to sellers, negotiating, seeing it, whatever. So focusing on that, getting bigger spreads, like, even like Landon was talking about, like getting bigger spreads, more leverage, but doing less work. And that was huge for me. So now all of that is aligned with every single deal that I do. So maybe to burst your bubble a little bit, like I didn't look at it as like operating the car wash as a business and operating, because I'm not like an operations business type of guy.
Sure. But you did what you knew. You did what you knew. You were comfortable with what you were doing, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
It doesn't like it's all about your flavor. It's all about like what you know. Like I don't do what you do, but I could walk into a business tomorrow, cut it open and go, let's roll. Like I know exactly how to do this, and that's what my comfort zone. And now I'm like, I'm a commercial broker and I'm doing what you guys are doing, right? But it's different because I'm doing all this bullshit on market and stuff, right? And I mean, this is true. Like this is true. That's fine. But I know I need to create active income where I live that supports like where I live. And that is my way to do it and be involved in real estate and also feed my own need for commercial investments and opportunities. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm flying blind. Like I'm super uncomfortable. I'm putting myself in situations where I'm having to solve problems. But so it's the same. Flip the coin. Yeah. It's the same thing,
Yeah. And I think for me, like I said, the alignment is so dialed in now. Everything that I do is aligned with me making money and aligns with my portfolio and what I want 10 years down the road. 10 years down the road, I'm telling you right now, you probably won't even ever hear my name. I won't be around. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to be on a beach somewhere taking some checks. But that's just me. That's what I want.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, the time is now. We really got to keep building that. And for me, it's like, what is the number? Like everybody has the goals and all of that. But for me, like, I don't need to make a lot more money. I need to do things that are aligned with my portfolio and ownership and my time. Because a lot of people too get caught up in, they want to do $2 million a year or $1 million a year, wholesaling, whatever, but they don't know what that entails. Having a big sales office, like brick and mortar, like a call center, something like that. I don't want that. I work out of my home. This is my home office. And we kill it. We crush it, like with this small machine. You don't need all the fancy bells and whistles to do it, but you need to know what like aligns with you and your goals. Cause everybody just, I think, gets stuck in just the do and wants to do deals and they want to fix and flip a property. I mean, I probably would have changed a lot on the flipping and rental side. When I started, I would have done more wholesale, but I think if you have your goals and your alignment figured out first, then it dictates the path on which you should go down. Versus like, should I do rentals or should I do fix and flips or should I do, lending, gator lending or whatever it is. And I think a lot of people get stuck there up to that $250,000 mark because they're all over the damn place. If they were to really just stick with one thing and blow it up, they can fill that one bucket before they get into other stuff,
So then I guess, Oh no, it makes complete sense. So as we kind of like bring it back here,
Yeah.
want to be respectful of your time, and I'm so great. Like it's been so much fun getting to know you and hearing your story, and it's so deeply relatable for so many people that want to get started. It sounds like, if I'm hearing you correctly, that would be your biggest piece of advice would be to pick a road, stay in the lane, focus, fill the bucket, make the money, and then worry then about what's next instead of, the fire hose. It's like, get the garden hose.
Yeah, I mean, the goals change, right? Like the destination changes. Like what happens when you get there? Then there's the next destination. So I think you need to have all of that, like, immediate goals, long-term goals, vision boards, all of that works too. It really does. But like not knowing the road first is huge. Like just knowing what you want. Like, what do you really want? Like break that down to the most simple form possible. I want money. Okay. Well, that's wholesale. All right. I want to own rental properties. Okay. Well, do you have the money for rental properties right now? No. Okay. Then you shouldn't be buying rental properties. Like once you know the goal, it dictates the path immediately, you know? So if you could figure all of that out first, I mean, for me, I would always say go wholesale first, but not everybody's a wholesaler. They could be an attorney and they want just passive income or something like that. So it could really change. But if you know what you want, it ultimately is going to dictate your path and make it visible pretty quick. And then only stick that path until you reach that destination to then change the path.
Yep. I love it.
Thank you so much, Spencer, for joining us today and just
No
helping
problem.
like share your story and all the relatable stuff. And
Sorry
people
to
want
keep you guys for so long. I mean, I know I look in the time there, I didn't even see it up there. Went over definitely a decent amount of time. But it's all good.
We're appreciative of you and your time. So where can people find you if they want to reach out to you, if they have deals for you in Central Florida or in, share the county in Michigan where you're doing deals? And
yeah. So Instagram is definitely where I play. Spencer.bishop_. That is my handle. You can always see kind of what's going on, what projects, all the things that we're doing. I'm very active on social there and always, helping people out too. There's a lot of people that always ask like different questions, beginners and things like that. So always reach out to me there and see if we can do some deals together.
I love it.
Awesome.
Cool, Spencer. Thank you so much for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, you guys.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining in.